So we skipped a week, and we'll try to catch up with everything this week. Let's start with a little bit of introduction. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, and then and then I'll go, and then we can move into what we're doing here. Yeah,
Oh, good. I get to go first.
you get to go first, unless you want me to go first. I don't mind going first.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is Annette. I live in South Carolina.
Pretend like this is the first day of
I
class. Your professor
graduated.
is asking you.
What? Like I'm like, what thing should I say? And then I have to tell them.
Right. This is the first day of class. All right.
I
Sorry, I
work
interrupted you.
okay, all right. um, all right. So I graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in social work and a minor in political science because I always found politics and this kind of stuff pretty interesting. After that, I just went on to work in different roles, doing mostly like mental health case management.
Hmm.
Recently transitioned into a role doing data analysis for a company that manages Medicaid funds, essentially, basically people who have like a mental or developmental disability, their Medicaid is managed differently. So the company that I work for does that, and I work for what's called a population health team. So we part of what we do is we look into specific like areas of health depending on the goals of the company. So like an example of what I might do is like a goal of the company is to make sure that all members who are pregnant are enrolled in a program with the health department to make sure that they are, attending their appointments. They have access to like prenatals and things that they need to have a healthy pregnancy. I track the data and present the data that shows that that's being effective or not. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. But yeah, just a general interest for a long time in um, in politics, in current events, and I like to stay up to date. So that's kind of part of my background, where I'm coming from, and doing that. Definitely not any sort of expert in politics at all. Just a person with a job and family and things that I'm doing who is trying to pay more attention.
Yeah. No,
That's how I.
to be fair, out of the two of us, your job, it seems like, is a lot more relevant to what I do, right? I feel like you're actually involved with something impactful. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, but like you're actually, like, if you wanted to ever discuss like the impact of Medicaid, right? Like what it actually
Mhm.
is and what it does, like like you would be the one to talk to about like how it impacts um like that interest you of disabled people, correct? Like, right? At least the money
Yeah, I
side of
mean, I
it.
can.
You have the inside knowledge on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can. I mean, to an extent. I mean, just because somebody works in a particular field, I mean, it's an ongoing practice, just like
Yeah.
everything else. I mean, I still don't know all of the ins and outs,
I mean, you're never
but
gonna.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it has been interesting to kind of transition into this data role and be able to look at both like outcomes for we call them members, but you can call them clients, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, see how because we call them members because we're technically an insurance company. We're
Yeah.
just not like it's not like private, like
Like what
it's not
you
like a Blue Cross Blue Shield type
right,
situation.
which you don't know. Right, right,
Um,
right, right. Like
yeah.
not the mainstream stuff you
Um,
hear all the time.
right. Like you can't enroll in my company's like
Yeah.
insurance. It has to be kind of appointed to you by the state
Yeah.
of North Carolina.
Yeah. Hey, socialism. That's a little bit of socialism right there. You know what I mean? It's government funded.
Well, well, it's Medicaid.
Little bit of socialism going on there. Hey,
A little bit, yeah.
you're
Well,
in.
I mean, yeah, exactly. My job's on the chopping block if they decide to get rid of that.
There
So
you go.
yeah,
On a cheerful note.
I would like for that not to happen.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about Elon doing that because he literally has zero, zero power to do that. But anyways, well, plus
We discussed
I
that.
think Medicaid is already spoken for. It's one of those programs that's is spoken for. Correct if I'm wrong, but we can get into that a little bit later. I maybe I should introduce myself too before we really dive into or going off on a tangent. So
Yeah. Go ahead and introduce. So, who are you?
I'm just a humble guy. I'm just a chill guy. You know what I mean? No. My name is Navdeep Singh. Mainly go by Nav. Everybody usually calls me that. I migrated here from India. I'm going deep. I'm going way back.
Way back.
When I was 13, uh, but I graduated with a net from Southern Connecticut State University. Go Owls!
This is the college's name, but
Go
that's fine.
Owls! You know what I mean? Like we got to represent where we came from. Anyways, so yeah, Go Owls, and I studied psychology, chemistry, a little bit of math. The plan was to go to medical school, which always had a interest in that. So I studied that for a long, long time. But just like in that, I have always been interested in politics. Ever since little, a lot of my family back home is in politics, so it was just kind of different type of politics, but it was just always around me. So I always kind of kept up with it as to like what's happening around the world. But now I am a small business owner, and I am currently going for my MBA, which I am gearing towards law and management. Uh, but I by no means were any experts in this, and you'll through this you'll if anybody's ever watching or listening, you'll become very clear that we are not by no means any experts. We're trying to just learn as things get thrown out in the world and in the politics, stratosphere. From hopefully from the big to the small, we'll try to understand everything. I feel like everything is connected somehow. You know what I mean? From a local level to the national level to the international level. Um, that's kind of basically it. We're just trying to understand. I think this past election, we've been trying to do this for a long time, longer than we care to admit to. But I think
Right,
this
okay.
past, but this past election, I think the way it went down, how everybody's saying Trump will make things better, Trump will bring the economy. Trump will make us feel safe. I think it kind of just hit us. I think for me, especially like during that election night when I was watching the election on stream too, actually, um, that it's really kind of up to us to see if he actually does, and we really hope. Realistically, we're not haters here just to hate. You know what I mean? If he really comes in and does make it better, I mean, so far, indications are zero on
Personally, I would
that.
love to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I would. It's one of those things where we would love to be proven wrong. And we would love to for him to come in and. But I think as citizens of this country, it's our job to be informed of what's actually happening. What is our government actually doing? Right. Uh, to get a little Descartian in here is the government is comprised of the people for the people, and it's supposed to look out for its best interest. So we really want to focus on the for the people part of that part of that line, that American adage or whatever you want to call it. For the people, what is it doing for the people? Is it doing something better? Is it governing? That's really my whole thing in this. And at the same time, try to learn, make connections. That sounds good, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, so, yeah, I think so. I
Anything
think
else?
some goals that we've highlighted is we're looking to kind of stay accountable in our own goals of being more informed or better informed. And just, I mean, you can't possibly know everything.
No.
Like, we're not saying we're going to come on here and give you a full, detailed, multiple source checked rundown of everything that
Yeah.
happened. We're just kind of going to talk as like lay people about things that we've seen that are coming up a lot in the news, so like a current events thing. Just staying informed and trying to get involved.
We're gonna be you know how Ben Shapiro loves to say fact over feelings. We're gonna be feelings over facts in here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Uh no, okay. Well, kind of to go
I
off of
mean,
that.
that's trying not to spread misinformation, but
Yeah, no. Of course, for sure. We any kind of feeling we
we
have.
might, if we're referencing a TikTok, we will say we're referencing.
Yeah, and then most likely that TikTok will be from somebody credible, and it's not gonna be just Uncle Billy Bob just decided to make a TikTok has one view on it. You know what I mean? No, it'll be somebody for sure somebody credible. Uh, but speaking of keeping up with stuff, just a little introduction. I kind of had an epiphany. When is this Monday? Really, do you? So you know how we've been talking about and saying like we just we're pretty much self taught in the world of politics, right? Like that's. I mean, maybe you've taken that course here and there in politics. I certainly never have. I mean, I'm just exposed to a little bit now with the NBA, but not even in terms of politics. More, I'm more exposed in terms of law, right? Like there's a massive difference between politics and law. Would you
Yeah.
say? But here's my question though. So, would you say? Do you think the average American and I feel like I know the answer to this, but it kind of just like really like sat with me this Monday. It kind of just hit me in the face. Like, do you think everybody is as informed as we are? As much as we would like to put ourselves down, like, oh, we're not experts at this, but I feel like maybe I'm wrong with this. Maybe like I would say more than 50% of the people in this country aren't at all. Like, I would be like not to boost myself into like the godly level. I think they're less than us in terms of like what the government actually does. Not what politics does, but like the government. You know what I mean? Like politics is different. Like people come on like TV news channels and bullshit, and but then they go and do another thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we are a little bit more informed than 50% of the American population. Would you agree with that? It kind of hit me today on Monday. I mean,
I would agree. I mean, I don't know what the actual data is, but I mean, on a typical day, I do probably read at least like two or three like actual articles,
yeah,
try to get them from different sources,
yeah,
but they're about a current event, a news item, a political thing. So I don't think that is necessarily the norm. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I would agree. Say that
And
probably not. That would be interesting to look at the data at like how many, you know, what does how informed do the average American think they are? Like the
yeah,
news.
just to make a joke, average American thinks there's a healthy population of the American populace that thinks that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. So
Right.
that
This isn't to like make fun or be like, oh, we're so much smarter. It's just to say like
yeah.
we do put effort into what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, that was the
Like,
point. That was really the point.
just
Yeah,
kind of level setting that
yeah.
we're not experts, but we are paying attention a
To
lot.
what's happening, right? No, for sure.
Our algorithms are very heavy.
Very serious topics at all times, and maybe a few things thrown in there. No, for sure. No, I just where it hit me too. I had my presentation on augmented augmented. Oh my god, I can't say that word. Augmented analysis in my class for data analytics, and our topic was finance and healthcare. And as I'm presenting, and it was probably like the worst time to have this epiphany because my final grade and it depends on it. You know what I mean? Like, uh, as I'm presenting on
Especially
healthcare,
as we're
literally in front of like 50 people there talking about how AI is impacting, um, or how healthcare is getting impacted by AI, pretty much. And I'm thinking about like, wow, these people really don't understand politics that well, like, or just AI in general that well, or like like how badly biased healthcare system in this country is. Like people don't actually understand that because so and I'll keep it quick and I'll keep short like where this why I had this happen as I'm presenting it. I'm talking about like so AI can be used to shorten the bias a little bit, right? When it comes to diagnosing any kind of disease and how it can be helpful in ERs, um, uh, in ERs to make your stay there shorter, and to help the hospital essentially make more money. Um, but I was kind of arguing both sides of the point, right? Like, yes, it can lessen the bias, but you also have to understand the fact that a lot of medical research done in this country is done on one males, two that are Caucasian and white. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
any research that currently we're talking about current AI today, like ChatGPT 4.0 today. I'm not talking about like a quantum computer powered super AI. No, I'm not talking about like what we see in the movie. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like today. So the way today AI works is you put in a prompt, it will go into its database, try to match those exact words or try to match those exact meanings to a certain uh, a certain topic, try to match it, and then understand that, and then spit out a response, right? Like that's how AI today works. And so if the source of the AI's research is biased, when it's talking to somebody like you or me when we go to the hospital, that information inherently is biased. And this girl asked me the questions like, well, I don't really agree with that. Like, we should be using AI more because it is less biased. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Because if you give AI just a straight up urine test result, it's gonna, and there's like higher levels of creatinine in there or whatever, it's gonna know what that means. Absolutely, it's gonna know what that means, right? But it's not gonna know. So like, it's such a weird, and this is not even a topic we wanted to
I
talk about
mean, if
today.
it's learning, I mean, if it's learning from us, how can we expect it not to kind of adopt those biases at least a little bit? I think what you're hinting at is like, or what you're referencing is how historically, like, I think for like kidney disease, right? Like, um, creatinine levels, like doctors have looked at different like of that level for like for white people versus black people,
Exactly.
and
That's exactly what I mean.
like a black person's level has to be higher.
Right.
But I mean, what is the AI going to learn from if not what has historically been done? I mean, realistically,
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. It's not gonna know. Like, it's kind of like you're. Yes, if you don't tell AI where or who the results are coming from, you're making it less biased. But at the same time, because of the past research, you're still introducing the bias into it, right? Because it's gonna fall on. It's gonna fall back to the research that's racist. Pretty much,
right.
right. But if I tell it like, hey, this research comes from, or this test result comes from an African American man or a South Asian man, right? Then you've already introduced race into it. So you're gonna make it better because it's gonna
Closer
understand.
than a medical record, right? I
Right.
mean, like,
So
and even is it like is this pessimistic to say like even if that is not specifically said like to the AI, does the AI not have the ability to infer? Like,
yeah,
uh, is that like weird to ask? Is that like
like
I don't know,
infer that
insulting?
this result comes from a minority. Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, and we don't know.
Like, I don't know. That's a big dystopia. I don't
Right.
know what abilities it has in terms of that. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I guess if it's not explicitly told, I guess you can figure like maybe it is less. So I guess less is better than not less.
yeah. It's such a weird like area, right? Like, it's such a weird area. Um, but I would love to have a conversation with some like software engineer that have worked on AIs. You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? But Anyways, this is the, like, but that was like during that like for her question, and there's so many people that don't know like how historically skewed these researches are, and then that just doesn't apply to the medical field. That literally applies to any kind of like political study, any kind of like business study, any kind of anything, right? So
It's everywhere.
it's
It's
literally
crazy.
everywhere.
I mean, something recently that like, I mean, we already knew where the roads are
Right,
just because of racism.
right, and then like, and it's kind of like
Yeah,
goes back to our conversation we had about FDR and then the New Deal, right? Like, well, he gave them all this money to build roads, and they built them through poor neighborhoods. And then they did a study to talk about, yeah, we fucked a couple of neighborhoods up. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it's
Thanks,
developing
states.
for us
Yeah,
and actually put the rest of us in a detriment as well. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But that kind of made me realize, like, wow, a lot of people don't
no,
know
I
this.
definitely agree.
A lot of people don't know stuff like
And
this.
I mean, it's yeah, a lot of it isn't standard. I mean, we if everyone was as informed, we wouldn't have seen.
Trump
I can
twice.
keep going back
We
to
wouldn't have
right.
seen Trump
What is
twice.
a tariff? What is a tariff? Googling. Can I change my vote after
Right.
Brexit?
Exactly. Exactly. No, 100%. 100%. And okay, okay, you know what?
And I do see it personally as well. I mean, I don't require that every single friendship that I carry is somebody who makes sure that they're, as liberal as possible and stays
Yeah.
up to date on, you know,
Yeah.
every news article that comes out. I don't require that. So I see, just having general conversations like,
No, what do
I
you
might
do
agree
about
with
it
you
though?
on this.
What do you do about it though?
Well, so that kind of goes to what I want to do kind of with this too. Like
Yeah.
I feel like especially over the past couple years, like I took advantage now now my feelings about Biden are very like not great, but like I took
Were they
advantage of the
ever
Biden
though?
administration and I took advantage of that this wouldn't happen again. And I
Yeah.
stopped like being so I guess confrontational in my beliefs. Like if somebody straight up said something to my face about something that I directly disagree with, I would say something,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like going out of my way to like challenge the beliefs of the people in my life, or I wasn't, going out of my way to like bring up stuff a lot if I knew like, like talking about like a friend of mine who's not very politically engaged. I wasn't really trying to engage them and stuff.
Yeah.
And since then, like I want to do that more. And every time I've done it since, I've gotten a relatively positive result. I mean, I
Really?
haven't been going back to like my days of like fighting people, roughly fighting people about their political beliefs, but like I mostly with bringing up politics more often with like friends who aren't, I know don't engage as much as I do.
Yeah.
Like even during the election, like the election cycle, like during the debates and stuff, like I started kind of talking to one of like a friend down here who I'm pretty close with, who I meet with pretty often, just like hang out in person. And I started talking just
Hey,
about
Dirt,
like
what's
my
going on?
general interests a
Thank
little
you for the
more.
follow.
And then when the debate with Kamala and Trump
I'm great.
first
How are
was
you?
that debate, she started watching it. She was just like, I'm trying to. She like texted me. She's like, I'm being a good American. I'm watching the debate and everything. I'm just like, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I and I'm doing. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, I think that's great. I think that's good, and I think that's what I kind of want to do with this too. Is I really want people that we reach out to people that don't uh keep up with it as much as we do. And like not do it in a, and I am that way. Like my brother is a little bit more conservative than I am. He has those beliefs, and every time we've had a conversation, I feel like I just
Mm.
feel this anger boiling in me. You know what I mean? And I just kind of blow my top with him. But I've tried. I'm trying to control that a little bit more now, um and try to just be like just and I hate to say it this way, right? Like, you you hate to just be understanding of just a weird belief that like that's gonna take somebody else's right away. You know what I mean? Like you like by trying to be understanding of that. Like I feel like you're kind of like admitting to it, and I don't want to be that, but like I think at least in the conversation,
I
you have to
understand
reach a
that.
middle point, right? Like, okay, I see where you're coming from in this conversation. I don't agree with it, but I see where you're coming from, right? Like I think we could do
I mean,
that.
I don't think you even have to say that you see where they're coming from. Like, my willingness to listen to somebody doesn't mean that I'm going to tell them, acknowledge that I see where they're coming from. Most of the time, if it's like that serious that they're talking, if we're talking about like a human rights thing that we're not seeing eye to eye on, then it's like, I don't see where you're coming from, but
Yeah.
I don't need to jump at you and call you an idiot,
Right.
because I can't control myself. Like, that's not,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that's not helpful.
I think I'm matured in that sense, and I think we both have to. So we got a question. What are we talking about? We're just kind of talking about everything, really. Right now we're talking about.
Wait, is there somebody listening?
Yes, I have a
Oh,
person in the
okay.
stream listening to us, and he is asking what we're talking about. So we're talking about like just having a conversation with different people, and like how we've over the years have matured instead of just blowing up on somebody that what's up, human robot? Hi, how's it going, man? uh that didn't agree with us necessarily. We're trying to be a little bit more understanding, but we're going to get into a different topic in a bit here. We're going to talk about what the next steps are in terms of like
We have
politics.
actual rules.
Yeah. What is going on with everything? I think there's something that we wanted to talk about, and that it's sort of like I think I'm going to jump into it. I've been seeing it a lot on my TikTok about this New York senator who was talking about, well, why don't we take a few of the states in the Northeast and move to Canada, like join it with Canada. And I just wanted to like how like
Right.
stupid
Well, they
and
change this every
wrong.
time. Like, sometimes it's California and Oregon and New York.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's New York, Connecticut, New
yeah,
Jersey.
like
Like, it's all these different.
it's
Yeah.
it's just so stupid. Like and again, I want to use that word to like make anybody like feel bad about that belief, but it is just like I can't think of another word. Like that's not. And then like that's one thing that they're talking about, and then the other thing that I keep seeing over and over and over and over and over again is, oh, how these blue states are gonna withhold taxes from the federal government so they don't go into red states. It's just like
But why is that not realistic? Like, why?
the the reason it's not realistic is because one, the supremacy clause in the Constitution, because federal law um, overrides state law, for one, and for two, taxes aren't collected from states.
So,
Taxes aren't collected from states; they're collected from people and businesses. They go directly.
let's go back to the supremacy.
But
Go back to the supremacy clause. So,
okay,
if we're
let me pull that
how
up.
if in practice, how is that going to? How does that affect this issue?
What do you mean? How does this affect this issue?
So, like, I think just give a little more, like, can we give a little more insight into how the federal government's supremacy makes it so that state governments can't just withold taxes or do other
Well,
things in order to
what?
relieve of the federal government? I know it sounds obvious, but like,
No, no, no.
just for the sake of us developing our opinions, I think further.
Yeah, no, no. So I'll get there's there's bunch of court cases, Supreme Court cases, actually, about about the supremacy clause. But in terms of just taxes by itself, like my second point is a little bit more prevalent than the supremacy clause, actually, because like again, like the federal government doesn't tax the state; it taxes the individual, right? So like the state
Mm-hmm.
the tax cut just like the tax withholding it's states just have no power to do it anyways. So but to go back to the supremacy clause is it just means federal or federal law will always overwrite state law. There was a case, I believe, it was a Massachusetts case, I'm pretty sure, where the state of Massachusetts uh, made a law uh, that they were going to ban the imports or the exports from Thailand, I believe. Can I? There, let me see if I can pull it up. And um, it's a recent case. It was in the 2000s. This just happened. Um, so the Massachusetts law said that we won't accept imports from. I think it was Thailand or it was a Southeast Asian country. I can't remember the country exactly. But there was already a law in place by the federal government, placed by the president and passed by Congress, that they were gonna um, ban imports from that country because of human rights issues. So the Supreme Court stepped in and then told them that they told the state they had to rescind that law that they passed because there was already something in place for the federal government to do it, and that the even though it's the exact same thing they were doing, the states still couldn't do it. And another case was a hotel owner, I believe. I think it's right here. See if I can pull it up. There was a hotel owner in the South, I believe, who refused to serve African Americans, and because the argument that I think it was a little bit more under intercommerce law because it allows the state government to commerce clause. It allows for states to trade with each other, and then the federal government has control over that. So a state can't make a rule that prevents another state from practicing that law. So this is going to really come in handy because of the abortion rights happening right now, and then we're gonna see a lot like how the Supreme Court will rule this. But the Supreme Court would stepped in, and then they argued that hey, in Alabama, I am allowed to discriminate against the basis of color, right? And then the Supreme Court stepped in and said no, you cannot, because what if you have customers from out of state, which makes it an interstate commerce issue, and then supremacy clause stepped in, and that case was thrown out and proven wrong. But there's multiple issues about the supremacy clause. But in terms of like what we're talking about right now, Democrats get a little crazy over this, and as much as we love to say like, you know, it's just the Republicans that do all this weird shit and the crazy shit. I think the Democrats are just as equally as fanatic, at least the uninformed.
Absolutely. Both are, yeah, it's definitely a thing that happens on both sides. I mean, right after the election, I mean, we did see a decent amount of election denying on our side too, not necessarily denying, but questioning, I'll say. Not that that's necessarily a wrong thing, but
Yeah.
we did see a lot of like, oh, how did, you know, if we are having record turnout, how does Kamala have less votes than Joe, you know, like that sort of stuff. Just like questioning, like, I guess the logic of the election results,
Yeah.
which, you know, as I said, not necessarily a bad thing, but putting it out a bunch publicly to try to like undermine the election, if that's your goal, it's not that much different than what they were doing pre January 6th.
Yeah, yeah, and
Not that extreme at all, but
no,
you know,
no, we're
same,
not. We're the
similar.
Democrats aren't doing their own January 6th. I hope not. Please don't go out there if
No.
you hear us. But no, I have been seeing so much misinformation come from the Democrat side of the things too. Is like there's this one, and she gets hundreds and thousands of likes and views, and she's just spouting some QAnon, almost QAnon things like, oh, Biden's cybersecurity czar is coming out saying she's going to release some information. No, Trump won. He won the
Yeah.
election. He has the electoral votes. He's going to be the president. So please, can we like just not talk about this nonsense and just move on and try to like at least
Right. Now,
focus
now we
on,
move on.
yeah, like just like don't be weird. Can we just be normal for like one
Absolutely.
time? Like just be normal. Just be normal people. And like if you really feel so strongly about being against Trump, um uh
Get
just
involved in what
get
he's
involved,
doing.
right? Get involved, do your research, talk to other people, try to change people's mind. I feel like the biggest thing somebody could do is just do their own research and do credible research. Don't just go on some weird podcast, you know, which again, nothing wrong with going on a podcast and like learning something from them and like, but make sure that what they're talking about is actually true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't stop on step one. Don't like, and this applies to just as to us as well. Please don't come here and like you heard me talk about the supremacy clause and like, and then you're gonna go like say like the no, like if you're gonna talk about what I heard, like you know what you heard on any kind of social media platform anywhere really, and just look it up. You have Google. There's no excuse not to. Like, hey, what is this guy actually talking about? Is he actually talking about something that's right, correct? Do I wanna even consume this information? Do I wanna like pay attention to this
Right.
information? Right? Like, I think those are just things like that we all should really be doing. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's that's generally to get information from multiple sources and you know
yeah,
be aware of any biases that
yeah,
a certain. I mean, I think we're aware of the big ones generally. I mean, we know Fox News
yeah,
believes right?
yeah.
We know that CNN is historically known for leaning left. I mean,
Not
there's
anymore. I feel
nothing
like they're
wrong
going
with
right,
reading
but anyways,
no, but I'm saying that historically, actually. But
right,
there's nothing wrong with. Okay, so we know that like if you're looking at like uh Politico, then
yeah.
they
Okay,
basically left.
okay, yeah.
So if there's nothing wrong with reading a Fox News
No,
article,
there's
there's
nothing.
nothing wrong with
There's nothing.
I read Politico all the time. I think it's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
It's a pretty
yeah,
moderate type. I'm just I guess that feeds into the issue that all the Democrats are talking about with the Democrat media presence. There is no real comparable Fox News. There's nothing that
yeah,
is comparable.
yeah.
Um, which
Um,
is, I mean, that's a different conversation. We don't really need to get into that, but
no, we got a comment from Dread. He says
point being,
tax cuts is really a big problem in America. I always hear about it. Yeah, yeah. Can you elaborate if you're still here, but more on like what do you mean by tax cut? Like, are you for tax cuts? Are you against tax cuts? Um, I think the tax code in general in America is really messed up, and we talked about it on our last week's episode or 2 weeks ago, I guess. But yeah, are you for or against it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, really. Um, but we can what like is there anything you want to add to like the bunch of misinformation coming out of the Democrats? Or well, I guess we could talk about like okay, well that's the weird shit happening on the Democratic side of the party. Here, let me put a different way. What is the good things coming out of the Democratic that to if we could just if you want to cry wolf and talk about the end days are coming, um, what is the Democratic Party doing to combat that? Do you have anything, or have you seen
well,
anything?
I guess I'll start by saying I feel like the Democratic Party is in a period of transition. It has to be.
Shambles.
I mean, we're
We could
seeing
say
that.
shambles.
I mean, we can talk about the DNC like cherries a little bit if we get to it. If we don't, it's fine. But
Yeah. Hey,
So
I'm here all night. It's
are
totally
you
up
at
to
right
you.
now?
It's totally up to you. What do you want to get into? I'm here all night. I'm here till probably like 12 o'clock.
Oh my God. Um, so I mean, I don't know that we're seeing like big things right now. I mean, this week the big news was um, Biden pardoning Hunter. I mean, whether you see that, I mean, obviously from his part, it was just a selfish, I'm going to protect my son thing to do. It wasn't,
Yeah,
for to champion anything for the party. But I just feel like, the Democrats are in a position right now. They don't hold. We don't have. We're not going to have the executive. We're not going to have Congress. We already don't have the Supreme Court. We're fighting tooth and nail for any lower court position. I mean, that's something that they're doing.
yeah,
Um, I mean, that's kind of something that was in the news a lot in like our interim, like that Thanksgiving break period.
yeah.
Um, Chuck Schumer, who is currently the
The
leader of
majority.
the Senate Democrats,
Yeah.
and they're in the majority right now, so that's called the majority leader. Um, so basically, that the person in that position gets to decide um, essentially what is coming, to vote in the Senate. And essentially, right now, what they're trying to do is just affirm any or confirm, I'm sorry, any judgeships in the lower courts that have been
Yeah.
kind of stuck in limbo during, essentially during these years, people who have, vacancies that have been coming up, who someone has been appointed, they just need to go through the Senate to be confirmed. So that's essentially what they're working on. Um,
But
but I mean, that being said, my point was, I'm sorry, my point was that, we have very little power right now. Anything that can be done right now. Any Hail Marys that the Democratic Party wants to put through before we get there, I say do it, because what are the consequences if we have no power?
But before I answer that, but why did it have to be a Hail Mary? We've had 4 years of, well, let's just say 2 years
Right?
of 2 years of Senate leadership being in the majority, and obviously Biden, who could have pushed all those things. Why wait till November 26th, 25th, 28th to like do this? Like, why wait till December? Like, why like this is my issue with the Democratic Party, really, and in politics in general a lot of times, and I hear this a
The
lot.
ineffectiveness,
What's that?
just the general ineffectiveness.
Right. But not even that. Like, and then this is kind of where, like, I'm gonna go into a bigger point too. Is like where people turn off away from politics because they're like, well, you had 2 years to do all this stuff, and then you would decide to do it when, like, to the at the last call. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Like, and this isn't just a uniquely American problem. It happens in pretty much every political system, and I think. And as we transfer to a age, I think this would have been okay maybe 10, 15 years ago, where information wasn't shared as readily as it is now. Where you can, anything happens, the entire world hears about it immediately. Like the riots in Georgia started, and we knew about it immediately. The martial law got declared, and we knew about it immediately in South Korea. Right. So, and then this
Right.
happens in India all the time, where like the politicians will get elected with all these promises and this is kind of exactly what happened here, from a local level to the national level. Then they spend the 4 years, 5 years in power just doing absolutely nothing, and then come election times they start doing this stuff just so it's fresh in people's eyes. Like, hey, look, we did this. Hire us again. You know what I mean? So and that's just, I think that type of thinking just doesn't work, because eventually people are gonna go like, well, what do you think, I'm fucking dumb? Like you had 2 years to
Right,
do
right.
this. Like, you had two. Imagine how many more judges Chuck Schumer could have confirmed, how many more judges Biden could have confirmed once they had gotten to the Senate power, right? Instead of like, what, they're going to confirm maybe 200 something. They could have tripled that number. It could have quadrupled times 10 that number, right? That could have drastically changed the landscape for average day Americans that are gonna hear this by a far, by the factor of 10, factor of 100, if they could have just done it, right? So I just don't. And then on top of that, like the Supreme Court has already made the local level judges' job that much harder with the overturning of the Chevron deference, but it's just the Congress, and as much as I would love to throw this at the feet of the Republicans, but it is equally the Democrats' fault too. They've been so ineffective. The last this I think there's some crazy statistics that this Congress is the least effective, least active Congress ever. Like so few
Well, and
laws have been passed
yeah, they get like less and less productive each like each
each
session
year,
that they get.
and that's really the crux of the problem with America right now. Like, and uh, that's where the issues are coming in because they spent so much like this and this, and you can blame this on Trump, and I am sure Trump has uh, uh, a big part to play in it because ever since he got elected the first time around, like there's just been massive divisiveness across the nation. um, but it's not just his fault. It's not just his fault. We had the presidency for 4 years and the Senate for 2 years, and then um, had pretty tight control at the House with the whole McCarthy thing going on. Like things could have been done, and I feel like they just like not enough was done. Right? Why not do what you can do? Why go and play this tune to the people like, oh, we can't do it because uh where the house is controlled by the Republicans and we can't get anything passed. Well, no, you can do something. You absolutely can do something. So whatever you can do, you should do to help the people. It's all about helping the people, and people will see that. It's not, don't make a show of it, right? Like just don't make a show of it, because that people are not
Mm-hmm.
stupid. Not everybody is stupid, and much less so now because everything is so readily available. They could see what Chuck Schumer is doing on a Friday afternoon in his bathrobes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like people know. Like we're not dumb. Um,
I mean, I think that is something that the Trump campaign was kind of able to harness against
absolutely,
Democrats. Just
absolutely.
not that, I mean, it's like, I mean, and the Trump campaign kind of was able to do that with a lot of things. They take
Yes,
real problems, things that most people would agree are an issue with the government, and then put out and make it like an only Democrat thing or an only
yes,
liberal thing, like,
yes.
oh, this is only because they believe the things that they do. And it's not just because it's not a symptom of just the type of government we have, first of all. Not that that's an excuse, but
Um,
we have the type of government that's going to be slower anyway.
yes,
Secondly, it's an issue with both sides. Both sides, especially how divisive things are, like you said, are responsible for the for the holdup. Because if anytime anybody tries to do anything, we're not going to be willing
yeah,
to talk to the other side. We're not going to be willing to give on anything, and all we're going to do is push one person's agenda, whether it's on either side. And you know, I think we can both agree that if anything, the Republicans are more guilty of this.
yeah,
Then obviously nothing's going to get done. But like I said, his campaign was able to say, "See, they've had power, they got nothing done.
yeah,
Why not?"
yeah.
And if you aren't paying close attention, you're gonna see, see that and say, "You're right, they didn't get anything done, and they had the power, so there's no excuse." So,
Right, like, and then the article you put in, like, the Democrats are about to rediscover the value of the filibuster, right? Like when
right,
Pramila J. Paul was urging people, like, we need to end the filibuster, but now she's coming out and saying, like, hey, we need to use the filibuster. Like, it's just the blatant hypocrisy that happens. Like, it's just
yeah,
like
because it's not a belief you have;
it's just what you need to
using your
do.
power to your advantage. Yeah,
So
or
I
trying to get rid of a power. Yeah, no, absolutely.
like she flat out said it. I am championing getting rid. Am I championing getting rid of the filibuster now? when the GOP has a trifecta? No. But had we had the trifecta, I would have been like, come on. When you say that, as much as I would love to support your fucking policies, but when you say that, you're just like, okay, you're just like them. Like it's, hey, I have the power, so fuck you. You know what I mean? Oh, they have the power. Well, fuck them. Let's get behind this. Let's slow them down. No, man. Like I
Yeah,
get
I
what they
think
want to
that
do
that
is bad.
stems in me more like I have a belief system. I don't ascribe to like a particular party, like that. I don't want
Yeah,
to like obviously I'm a Democrat, but like
but not this
I don't really
Democrat.
identify that way,
Yeah.
because like I have a belief system that is left leaning, and
Yes.
I have to vote for Democrats because that's my best shot
Yes.
at getting anything resembling what I want.
Yes. And I think
It's not that I'm gonna go toe to toe with somebody arguing that Nancy Pelosi's a good person.
no,
Like
no.
it's not.
If somebody comes up to me and talks about Nancy Pelosi's bad, I'm gonna be like, yes, brother, we're right there with you.
Yeah.
Joe Biden wasn't good. Yes, we're right there with you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just don't get it.
We can, like, I will. I can't wait for the day where it'll be acceptable to just talk shit about how much of a villain Joe Biden has let himself become.
Yes, yes, and you know what, and as much as we like to divide this country into like red, blue, you know what I mean? I think most Americans, if we just, I think there was, I think I sent you this when they interviewed Americans about just policy, like they didn't mention anybody's name, they didn't mention anybody's affiliation, they didn't mention anybody's anything. They just talked about, hey, this policy, what do you think about it? Majority of the Americans, I think it was like 80% of the Americans agreed on each policy. Now if we had a party that was promoting just and you know what, and I have an issue with like labeling myself as like, oh, I'm left leaning or I'm this. No, I just want my government to work for me better. I want my government, and it absolutely can. It absolutely can. America generates so much money, and in like it can easily provide free healthcare, provide and things like that. The Republicans have been so good at it. And I don't even want to say Republicans. I just want to say the Republican Party has been so good at demonizing these terms, right? Like these such bad terms, like, oh, you want to give somebody free health care? Oh, that's socialist. But you call cops 911. You call fire department 911. The ambulance comes, takes you. Your kids go to school for free till 10th grade. That's all socialist fucking programs. Like this entire, there's so many social programs here from the New Deal. Like you know what I mean? Like that can easily, like we can do this. We can make people's life better. And realistically, if you were to sit down and talk to any economist, they would tell you if the less sick the people are, the more they're more likely to work. Making people sick is not good for the economy. It's just not. It's good for the pharmaceutical companies. It's good for the hospital companies, but it's not good for the overall economy. Human robot. I think they can spare a bit on a health promotion board and incentivizing healthy living and healthy diet. What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? I'm not like. Are you saying like the like in terms of what we're talking about? Are you saying like free healthcare like should be a thing? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I agree. I mean, healthy living and a healthy diet for sure. Uh, but I think if I can take that a little bit further, I think if you were to give a company, anything, any leeway or deregulation, if you want to just call it like that, so we can all be on the same page. Like if you give any company like, hey, we're gonna deregulate you, you can do whatever you want. Majority of the time, people are gonna just not do the right thing. I hate to be such a like have a pessimistic view, but like that's the reality of things. No, if you tell a company like, hey, you don't really have to make sure that the food kills people, right? Like they'll do it. They'll do it. If they can make it cheaper, they will make it cheaper, right? So I think that's where like
They only
that's
have one job. I mean, and it's to make money.
right, right. It's not
Especially when
about the health.
companies get large, that's the only goal.
Yeah,
And
I think
other than
that's
that,
where
everything good that they do is because of regulation,
Yeah.
taxes, all that sort of stuff.
And
It's not altruism.
yeah, and I think that's where like another way the Republican. I think there can be a fine line. I was thinking about this when I was driving home too. I think the Republicans have done a great job of demonizing that word too. Would you say we have a health promotion board here in our country where they hand out pedometers and award people who walk more. They also have a grading system for our foods and make public gyms as cheap as possible. Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Especially the last part, they have a grading system for our food. That's a regulation. The Republicans in America, at least, have done such a good job at demonizing the word regulations. All that word should mean is that your government cares about the people and makes these companies hold and holds them accountable to making sure that the citizens of this country are healthy, right? That's the job of the government, to look out for the benefit of the many, of the citizens, not for the companies. The companies will still make money if even if they're regulated more. Across the world they make money. So why is it only allowed in the US, right? Like, and and the government really needs to take a step in that. Like, they do and they don't. I know, I understand, like, and necessarily, yeah, 100% that people have the freedom to do it, and it's causing problems for sure, for sure, for sure,
Okay,
for sure.
what's the
So okay, so he
what's the
said he
specific?
said human robot said the quote free quote healthcare solution is a stopgap, and I'm gonna actually answer this because I think she's a little bit more in this. But people are kind of eating unhealthily. They have the freedom to do so, but it's causing problems. Thoughts? What do you think?
Sorry,
So healthcare solution, the free
so
healthcare solution is a stopgap, but people are kind of eating unhealthy. They have the freedom to do so, but it's causing problems. I think 100%. People do have the freedom to do so, and it does cause problems. Uh,
sure.
but does that like, are you saying they
I guess
shouldn't
I have
get free
a
healthcare?
few. Right. I guess exactly. I feel like it's a non because
Are you saying?
diet is only one aspect of health, so it's just like it's not an equivalent argument.
Yeah. No.
For instance, that people can't have healthcare because some people will choose to eat badly. I mean, wouldn't the solution then be to give people healthcare and then focus
Yeah.
on
No.
trying to improve people's diets with education and
Yeah.
access
No.
to
I agree with
healthy
that.
foods? I mean, if that's the goal, it seems like that would be better than just leaving people to their own devices
Yeah. No. And
and not being able to treat them.
I 100% agree, and I think human robot. We're not just talking about we're not just talking about um we're not just talking about people eating unhealthy. Well, what about the kid that got cancer when he was as soon as he was born, right? Like, should his parents go in debt because they want to make sure their kid lives, right? Well, what about you were working at a job and you're completely fit and fine, and then you hurt your back, or you hurt your leg, you hurt your hand, or what about a single mom? That's the only provider in the family, gets a fever, but now she has to go to work because she can't afford to miss work.
I mean, it's
She can't go to the
important to
doctor,
believe
right? Like,
if
what about those people? It's not just the necessarily like, oh, if you give free healthcare to people, they're just gonna go and eat bad and expect to be taken care of. I mean, like, I understand that. Like, I understand that, but I think it's just a much bigger problem than that. Like, when we talk about free healthcare, we're talking about like giving healthcare to that single mom, or what if her kid?
even healthy eating, if we're going to isolate that issue, it's a much more complicated issue than just people choosing to eat
Yeah,
unhealthy. I mean, we've seen across the spectrum that there's an education issue in this country. There's you know economic inequality. People live in food deserts where they don't have access to. And I know this is a tired argument at this point, but not everybody's heard it, so I'll say it. people live in areas where they don't have access to a grocery store.
Yeah.
They don't live within the distance where they can access public transportation to get to a proper grocery store. So they're um, if everyone's familiar with like a Dollar General, that store, which isn't even really a proper grocery store, it's
Yeah.
essentially um, a store that sells mostly prepackaged items. They'll sell like prepackaged food items. They'll sell you know, things like toys you can get pharmacy and like, toiletry items there, that sort of thing. That's where a lot of people rely on most of their groceries
Yeah.
because that's just what they have access to.
Yeah.
And even if they're on food stamps, that isn't the cheapest place to shop. Even if it's called a Dollar General, you're getting less healthy items for a marked up price because they strategically put them in areas where people can't really access anything else all that easily. Rural areas,
Yeah. No,
things like that. So
and
it's a more complicated issue, and
yeah.
I'm not. Cause I'm only saying this because I'm not sure if I'm just talking to you or who I'm
No, no,
talking to.
he's
But
talking
I'm
back.
just putting it out there.
Yeah, he's talking back. No, and Human Rabbi, he said, I can only speak for the obesity epidemic. I mean, if you encourage healthy living, the money can go to other programs like the ones we mentioned. No, absolutely, absolutely. But it takes what we're talking about is
Encourage healthy eating. That's something that I agree with. I
no,
would,
we 100%
like,
agree
I
with
would
you.
want to see my government
Yes,
putting, making that a priority,
yes,
but doing it in a way where people have access to funds and education necessary to do that. I mean,
yeah.
so many people don't really even know how to eat healthy
They don't.
if they
They don't.
if they
No,
have access to it. And
100%.
I
And
mean, not to harp on it, but I mean, I know you keep trying to talk. I'm sorry,
no,
but
no, no. Keep
even
going.
I
That's
don't
fine.
know if you guys. So I don't know if you like now. I don't know if you ever saw this, but like it's been kind of trending on TikTok for people. Like it's kind of like a right wing thing, where these women will post these like grocery hauls of their groceries for the week for their families, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how expensive groceries have gotten."
Yeah,
But these are like middle class, upper middle class women who are posting these
yeah,
things. And to be fair, these are moms. They're busy people. I'm not judging them for the things that they buy, but they're putting online that they spend all this money. They can't do this grocery bill or whatever. And these are again just to highlight middle class people who you would expect to have some access to education, nutritional education,
yeah,
things that they can find online. They're getting processed things, they're getting a lot of soda, they're
yeah,
getting prepackaged things.
yeah,
And whatever their reasoning for doing that, I'm not going to judge them for that.
yeah,
But I mean, I think we all know that that's not the healthiest way to eat or to live.
yeah.
And then they're complaining about how expensive it is. So I guess point being, I mean,
And it kind of goes back
whether
to
you're on food stamps or you're not, there's
yeah,
the education level of nutrition
yeah.
is not high.
No, and again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? It's the government. Like, sure, people are busy. Some people don't have the money. People have absolutely the right to buy processed food if they want to buy the processed food, right? But the government can step in at that point. Well, yes, you can. The companies can make processed food, but you need to at least make sure it's nutritional and healthy. It doesn't necessarily. I don't think processed food necessarily have equates to bad food, like unhealthy food. I don't think it has to be that way, right? I think the
Right. Well,
government can
yeah,
necessarily.
I'm not trying to say that either.
What's that? Yeah, I'm
No,
here.
I'm just saying, yeah, I wasn't trying to you know, make that equation necessarily.
Yeah, no, but I think like it kind of just goes back to that, like right, like, but the topic of free healthcare, is just more than just bigger than the nutritional aspect of things. I think people shouldn't have that worry, and the stress of having a health like a medical debt should not be a thing. Like that's my whole point in this, right? That's such an
Yeah.
evil thing. Like that is, if we just talk about just that, like that is such an evil thing. And on top,
So
and that's
it is.
one
I
one
mean, it
thing.
speaks to what you believe is a right or not. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of
but
based
any
on
kind of
how
right is
you
just
how what is
our
a
like
right or not.
But a right is just a right. Like we can make up any kind of right we want to. No, like it's just what we decide as a people. Like, hey, this is what I want to be. And another thing I want to say, like mention it too, and then give me a thought on this. Like, if we want to make sure families are eating healthy, well, why don't where do kids from kindergarten to 12th grade spend most of the time? In schools, right? Well, why don't
Mhm.
we provide a nutritional breakfast so parents don't have to worry about it, and then a nutritional lunch again so parents don't have to worry about it, right? Like those should be things that
Right.
every kid should be provided. That's where we
Right.
really
I think
start in schools. Like we teach these kids, like, hey, you this is the health, this is what a healthy meal looks like, this is how we be active, right? We
mhm.
need to give those resources to local schools, local educations, and then start there, because then those kids will grow up and know what a healthy meal looks like. Not that like they get chicken nuggets and mashed potatoes and high sugar milk, or Yahoo Yoo-hoo milk. You know what I mean? Like that's not nutritional. Again, I love those. Don't get me wrong. I fuck with the chicken nuggets heavy in high school. Those were the best lunches ever. But it didn't like it doesn't have to be, it didn't have to be bad, it didn't have to be bad. Like I think that's one aspect. If we're just going to talk about food
I
and
mean,
diet, we start there.
if we're again, if we're isolating that issue, I mean, um, it's a little disingenuous, I think, to say that Republicans would be better on that issue, or that healthcare needs to stay privatized because of that issue, when they're not doing anything, they're not supporting anything
Yeah,
that would be helpful, like that, like the school. If you're going to say, oh, we care about this issue, which, I mean, Trump appointed somebody who's, whether he's right or wrong, he speaks about, holistic this, that, and the other thing.
yeah,
Um, if you're going to say that that's a belief that you have, you can't then go and say, but we don't want to fund, breakfast and lunch for kids.
yeah,
We don't want to fund food stamps, and we don't want to fund,
yeah,
local public health departments.
yeah.
Like that doesn't make
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think, and I don't think this is necessary. And I hate like making this like a Republican blue issue. I think it just should just be a government issue. I think we should all should be able to agree. Like, hey, giving lunch to kids, giving a healthy lunch to kids isn't necessarily a bad thing. We need to care about our future. If we want to be a strong country, if we want to be continue to be this country, this needs to be a thing. I, in my high school, I remember talking to my gym teacher, who's this like freaking jacked ass dude, like that probably just competes competes in like competitions. He was just beast. You know what I'm talking about? Like 250, just all muscle. And I remember this conversation really, really well. And this is, I'm talking about like, I'm talking like 11th grade here, like 10th, 11th grade here. Um, and even at that point, like I was talking about like, oh, I just want to drop a few pounds. He's like,
sense.
no, you're a growing boy. You know what I mean? And it was like the four of us talking. There was one kid that was with me that was a little bit on the heavy side, and me and some other guy, and then the guy that's a little bit bigger, and he goes, I want to drop a few pounds, and I go, yeah, I want to drop a few pounds too. And the high school gym teacher turns around, and is like, no, you guys are growing right now. This will grow out. What you need to do is you need to eat better, exercise a little bit more. Like that's great advice. You know what I mean? That's the type of advice we need to be giving.
Mhm.
But if we can just take out part of that, where hey, you need to be eating better. No, the school will provide you a little bit better lunch, and the school will provide you with he was great. He taught us different types of exercises. He made sure things was going correctly. He helped every single student in the weight room, like try to teach him how to do the exercise correctly. Like that's a good teacher. I don't remember his name now, but that's a good teacher, and those are the type of teachers we need to be having everywhere. But do you
I
know
mean,
how
and that's
badly teachers? That's another thing we could talk
that's
about. How badly teachers are
I mean,
treated in
that's
this.
a broad thing. Like, you happen to get a teacher who cared,
Yes.
at a time in your life where you were prepared to listen to it, and it was actually helpful. It
Yeah.
wasn't too early, too late.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right, not everybody gets that.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
and
100%.
you're not. saying that, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who would, lots of people take their own experiences and say that, that just is how things are. So I'm sure there's people out there who got that same lecture that you did and are taking it to be like, well, everybody must have been told this,
Yeah,
so it's unacceptable for people not to be educated. Like,
yeah, yeah. No, I think it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about. Like, I hope this administration coming in has the power now in all three of the branches, and if they want to truly make America better, they should. But if they don't, then what we need to do as a country really need to start educating people about what is happening, right? Like what is going on here. We need to talk about this is kind of our goal with this, and I know you want to end soon. It's over it's a little over an hour now, but we'll end it with this, I guess. Unless you want to keep going, it's totally up to you.
we should probably wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna wrap it up with like I think majority of the people in this country and I think across the world all want to just live in peace and just want to be healthy, just want to take care of their families. I think that's like a baseline we can all agree on. And I think we get
Yeah,
like
of course.
government like I think just clouds with this nonsense stuff. No, there's enough money in the world to give everybody free healthcare, free education, if they choose to want to. Not everybody wants to go to school. Not everybody feels like they want to go to school, and that's totally okay. Not everybody wants to like study and do all this stuff, and we don't. It's not necessarily like forcing it on people, but like if somebody wants to, they should be able to like to make it a little bit better. Like I think education is one of the ways, and if you're still here, human robot, like I think you're gonna absolutely agree with that. Like if we teach people how to be better, it will be better. If we teach somebody for 100 days, maybe like the 25 days out of those 100, something stuck with them, and it's totally up to the people. We should give people the freedom. I see free education as giving people the freedom to explore their desires. I think that's it. And then free healthcare enables everybody to go and do it. Like, hey, if I get sick, I can go see a doctor and continue to live my life. I don't have to worry about my parents. I don't have to worry about my siblings. I don't have to worry about my kids. I don't have to worry about my spouses. Like I don't have to worry about that. Like they can take like my government is gonna take care of it, and obviously that's gonna depend on like what. And we can talk about the taxes and all that stuff here, which we pay more than every other country in the world, but that's a whole different topic. What do you want to end on?
A whole bunch of no, just that since you brought it up, so much of our tax money already does go towards our
Yes,
healthcare systems.
and we don't get any.
And then on top of that, we're paying insurance half the time.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're like, yes, compared to other countries, our spending in healthcare is astronomical,
yeah,
and we're not even. I mean, sure, there was a time in this country where people could say like, yes, it's expensive, but we're getting top quality care. But
yeah,
we are seeing ourselves split
yeah,
in almost, in several different areas. I mean, particularly like, maternal mortality. I mean, that's a different topic that we can go into a different time. But I mean, it's just, yeah,
yeah.
we don't have a system anymore that can even remotely justify the prices, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%, absolutely. I just like it's just crazy, and I think we people need to hold a lot of these um politicians accountable. It's just simple as that. Like people need to wake up. Hey, this isn't working. We need to do better. Uh, Not what we wanted to talk about today, though, huh? We wanted to talk about something else, about like
We
healthcare.
really
But I'm happy with it. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, the point is kind of just let things flow this time, right? We
Yeah,
tried to
yeah,
over agenda, over
yeah,
agenda it last.
yeah.
So
Uh,
I thought it was a good conversation, and
I
I'm
think that
glad
was a
that we
great
got
conversation.
people who have some things to say. It
Yeah,
was cool.
yeah. I love when people come in and talk about stuff. And like, I think these guys are
I wish
not
you could
American. I think
see
you guys are
it.
not American, but like you come in and like, and it's kind of like nice to see how much people just from different walks, different talks, just agree on the basic things. And I feel like we should have these basic things. Other countries have these basic things. Why can't we? I hate America. We need to do better, America. No, I like America. It's okay. It
I
needs to. It can be
had like
better.
a really like face just like a not really even a conversation, just like passing comments with somebody a while ago, um, kind of about that, and they were like, "Well, we're so much bigger than these other countries. Like, sure, like Finland has free healthcare, but it's Finland, it's tiny. It's like I just don't understand the logic. It's like yes, we are bigger population wise, but we also have you know the money that we have
Yeah.
like dwarfs Finland
Yes. The,
ridiculously.
easily.
Like it's just it's a not it's another like it's just not equal. Like
It kind of goes
the
back to the thing, right? Like
comparison that you're trying to make doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
it kind of goes back to like the thing, like the Republicans or whoever you want to call it, like whoever, like they've done a great job at demonizing some of these topics. They just have, like, right, they part of
Mhm.
the like we need to deregulate. Like the government's controlling these businesses. Well, maybe they should control more of these businesses. We should make sure like a lot of these businesses are doing what they're supposed to do for the people, right? Like that's not a bad thing. I don't understand how that's a bad thing to hold other people accountable in this
Yeah.
like that's supposed to be that's the reason we send a lot of these people forward. Like we need to make sure like hey
I mean, you convince people that the government is wasteful and
yeah
it's not doing anything, and there's evidence for it. I mean, everybody deals with it. When you have to deal with the bureaucracy, it's difficult. When you go to the DMV, it's a pain in the ass.
yeah
People see this, and it gives credence to what they're saying. So you
yeah
can't really blame people.
no and
You certainly can't blame the
and
voter.
and I kind of go back to what you said, and it's kind of like, and let me tell me if you agree with this or not. The fact of wastefulness, I don't think necessarily. I mean, maybe there is, of course, and I'm not going to deny there isn't. Like we're not, the government isn't really bad with money necessarily. I think it's bad with its priority and its time. They get vacations like what,
Mhm.
every 3 months. They take a fucking week vacation and they get free healthcare. They get the best healthcare. They're so disconnected. Everybody that goes to Congress is so disconnected. They're wasteful with their time. I feel like there should be a thing that like, hey, I don't know how it would work. I don't know how it would happen, but like Congress really needs to be passing more laws that benefit average Americans. I feel like there should be a cutoff. Like, hey, we should look at the anybody that makes $200,000 or less. How can we make their lives easier? Because anybody that makes more than that, they are by far comfortable. They can afford anything. Yeah, maybe the guy that's making $300,000 a year can't go and buy the fucking Taj Mahal, like, or not flying private jet, but he can fly first class. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there needs to be a thing where we're like, hey, anybody that's making less than $200,000 a year, how can we make their life easier? It shouldn't be about just lifting a few. Like we all need to rise with the
No,
tide.
I agree. I do think that the criticisms are valid. I mean, as someone who's worked at like several different, government funded programs, I know that they're constantly audited. I know that somebody comes in and watches everything that you do. I know that in those programs, at least, the opportunity to waste money is low, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Continuum of
I
care.
can't
I don't
speak
know. They
to
think
the
figure out a
postal,
way.
I can't speak to these larger organizations, but for the most part, I think, a lot of the programs that I've been in were run. I mean, I'm not going to speak to, the first one in particular, but were run pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, yeah, when Congress goes in for only part of the year and then they spend half the time, the only laws that they pass are laws that have to do with themselves and their salaries
Yeah.
and their time off and when they can go to the Congress liquor store. Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's wasteful. That is wasting time, which is wasting taxpayer
Yeah. 100%.
money.
100%. They're so quick to give themselves an inflationary pay hike, but when we ask for more than $15 an hour, oh no, wait a minute, we can't do that. That'll throw the country in chaos. What would we do when like inflation goes out the roof? Oh, but what about your fucking $50 an hour that you're making over there? Yeah, and all the stock tips you're getting, and all the fucking insider trading that you're doing.
Mhm.
I can't believe I have to agree with Senator Josh Hawley. That fucking
Right.
irked the hell out of me. But anyways, I think that was good.
No,
I
I
think that
hear
was
you.
great. Human robot, or whoever's in here, thank you for joining us. I'm gonna stop for a bit, and I'll be back to game for myself. I'll be streaming for a while, but Annette's gonna leave us, and that's just gonna be our um, weekly political thing. Hopefully, we'll make it down the road, maybe more often, but right now we're at once a week. If you want to join us, we'll probably do this again. What, another next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, and if you
Did
please.
you have any media you'd like to
Ah,
highlight?
yes, yes, yes. No, not media this time around. I'm actually gonna take your lead, and recommend a book.
Books are also media.
Huh?
Books are media.
I'm doing a book. I'm doing a book this time. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the book that I'm recommending, and it's one of my absolute favorite books that people should read. It's called Siddhartha by Herman Hesse.
I knew it.
You knew it. I know. I haven't read
I
anything
knew it.
lately. So I'm gonna go back into my reservoir and pick out this book. It's a great book. It is an awesome book. It follows. I'm not gonna spoil it. Even though it says Siddhartha, it's not about Buddha. It's Buddha is in the book. He is mentioned in the book extensively, actually. But it is about a journey of a boy named Siddhartha and where he ends up in life and like the meaning of life, and it just talks about a lot of a lot of things that really helped me grow up. Really, when I was going through a little bit of a tough time in life, just trying to question everything. But it really helped me understand like the life world, to my own personal views. Um, it's a great book. It's a great book, and he's a great author. A German poet who visited India. Great book. Definitely look into it. What do you got?
So I also have a book. Of course, I don't have anything off the top of my head that is relevant, like directly to what we talked about today.
Okay.
But just another recent. Lately, I've like picked a lot of good, like the nonfiction books that I've been picking have been good. So I just want to highlight No Choice: The Fall of Roe v. Wade.
No
Ooh,
choice.
sorry. Yeah, it's called No Choice. It's by Becca Andrews. Um, sorry, it's No Choice: The Destruction of Roe v. Wade and the Fight to Protect a Fundamental American Right. Um, it's about abortion. Obviously, it's about the fall of Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
Um, it's another one. It's kind of like last week. I talked about the Jonathan Vigliotti book, and it's kind of similar to that. It's obviously on totally different topics, but it's similar to that in that it's very like personalized in the way it's written. So like it's telling women's stories directly. Like it's not just like it's not an overview of the law really. It's not like it's not data heavy. It's not a big breakdown of everything. It's just like women's stories of before Roe v. Wade was passed.
Hmm.
Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You kind of cut off, but I can hear you
Okay,
now.
so yeah, my thing just said the battery's low, so that's
Okay.
why. But it's personal stories of women before Roe v. Wade, like women who basically put together like a secret society of like ways for women to get abortions. Like, they found doctors that were willing to do it. They found places like clean, sterile places where it could get done, and they kept this all under the radar. Um, so it's just kind of the history of that, and then stories of women today who have struggled in like the post Roe era,
Hmm.
in trying to get abortions. And why it was interesting to me is because, I mean, everybody has their personal feelings on it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I support abortion a lot. As personally, in terms of like the procedure itself, it does make me a little uncomfortable, and that's something that this book like made me face.
Yeah.
Um, 'Cause it's like it tells stories not just of, the stories that are highlighted all the time of, the woman who desperately wanted her baby but started having a miscarriage and needed a DNC. Um, it talks about women who just couldn't have a baby at that time and decided to have an abortion, and
Yeah.
maybe women who had multiple abortions. So things that to me were a little like, oh God, like I don't like that. But it's also like it really highlights why this procedure needs to be legal.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, it did challenge some like things that I don't feel necessarily politically, but things that I feel personally.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good book.
No, I think that like this procedure is traumatic, no matter how you want to do about it, and I think nobody makes that choice easily. As much as people like to say, like, oh well, what if this woman just wants to go and like have a night out and just have unprotected sex?
Right.
I I don't think that ever happens. Like I don't want to say ever happens, but this is such an invasive procedure. Like it's draining mentally, physically. Like it's not a thing that happens lightly. I think people again, the Democrats. I mean, the Republicans have done a great job at demonizing this topic, and the Democrats have done nothing to combat it in anything. We just don't fight. We just don't fight. Anyways, uh, another great stream. I think we talked. I had a great time. Had a great time. I think we talked about a lot of important stuff. I appreciate people stopping by. Like I said, I'm
Yeah, it
gonna
was cool.
end for a little bit and then I'll be back. But I'll be back with my gaming content, not such a heavy content. But if you want to stick around, yeah, still talk. I'd love to keep talking. But if not, and you want to join us for another, what do you want to call this? What do we want to call this? Engaging, inviting
Yeah,
environment that we're
that's
trying to
perfect.
create here. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
you want to go with
Environment.
that? Environment we're trying to create. Would you call it that? We're inviting people. I think I'm inviting. I think people can talk to me.
Yes.
And just don't get tequila in you because you'll start yelling at people. But that's a different story. We keep that away from me.
Right. Right.
Uh,
No, I keep this sober. It's a Wednesday.
yeah. All right, human robot, and Dirt, if you're still here, thank you for coming by. If you're gonna stick around, I'm just gonna end it quick and I'll be back. Or we're gonna say goodbye to Annette and our
Right.
week 3 of all the factors. Thank you.
Cool. Bye.
Bye.